¿Cómo está? Mapute. ¿Cómo estás? Muy bien, and very happy to have you here once again. Welcome to Learn Spanish World. My name is Mr. Briggs. I'm a qualified Spanish teacher. Today we're going to be talking about Philippines Spanish and the resurrection of the Spanish language in the Philippines. So today we'll visit the beautiful islands of the Philippines to learn about the connections, big connections between the Philippines and the Spanish-speaking world. That's right, the Philippines, it's like that long-lost brother in the Spanish-speaking world. Did you know that there was a time when in the Philippines, Spanish was spoken in many parts of the country? Spanish was first introduced in the Philippines in the 16th century. So the 16th century all the way to the 17th century, 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, Spanish was part of the Philippines' history. Spanish was an integral part of the Philippines' history, as well as its culture. Filipino people have a lot of things in common with Latino and Spanish people. Did you know that the Philippines was named after King Philip of Spain? That's right. The picture that you can see here is King Philip of Spain. The Philippines was named after the King of Spain. The Spanish influence on Filipino culture has been profound. The Spaniards introduced their language, food, habits, even clothing and religion, art, and particularly their philosophy of life to the Filipinos. Yes, Filipino culture was deeply mixed with Spanish cultural elements. Did you know that the majority of the Filipinos of Spanish descent are of Spaniards and Mexican origin? That's right, some Filipinos also descend Mexicans. It is also interesting to notice that the idiosyncrasy and the philosophy of life of both the Mexican and Filipino people are very similar. Incredible, but true. It is estimated that at the beginning of the 20th century, particularly the first 2 decades, approximately 60% of Filipinos spoke Spanish as their second language. What's more, there are more than 4,000 Spanish words in Tagalog. In other words, between 20 and 33% of Tagalog words are actually Spanish words. ¿Cómo está? Pero, tenedor, plato, mesa, cuchillo, vaso, and so many more. Sábado, bodega, mundo, número. Tagalog was heavily influenced by Spanish. King Juan Carlos I commented in 2007 that some of the most beautiful pages of Spanish literature ever written were actually written in the Philippines. There are literally thousands and thousands of Spanish loanwords in more than 175 native languages in the Philippines, and Spanish orthography has influenced profoundly the spelling used for writing in all of these languages. Did you know? The impact of the Spanish influence on local cuisine is very much evident. For example, lechon, puchero, embutido, paella, leche flan, churros, and so many other dishes. The Philippines is the only Asian nation that's predominantly Christian, with 90% practicing that religion, and about 80% of its population are Roman Catholic. Because of its Spanish colonial influence, it is the largest Christian country in Asia. Filipino Spanish was very similar to Mexican Spanish because the Philippines was ruled from New Spain, in present-day Mexico, and this influence lasted for over 3 centuries. During that period, there was much Spanish and Mexican immigration to the Philippines. But then 1987 arrived. it was a disastrous year for Spanish. Spanish was an official language of the Philippines until it was removed in 1987. This had terrible consequences. Unfortunately, the language was almost eradicated. It was dying due to a series of tragic events such as wars, invasions, and eventually even banned due to political reasons. Spanish began to die way before 1987, at the turn of the 20th century. The long-lost brother of the Spanish-speaking world left, and little by little, it lost contact. Nonetheless, Spanish growth has continued around the world. Currently, there are 570 million speakers of the Spanish, making it the second most spoken language by native speakers in the world. And as you can see in this chart, after the 1990s, something very interesting happened. Spanish began to grow. But we should ask ourselves, why should Spanish be revived in the Philippines? What would happen when these long-lost relatives you haven't seen in a long time return and make huge connections once again with its brothers from the Hispanic world? What would the results? Would it be positive for the Filipino economy? We'll talk about the return of the Spanish language to the Philippines. During the 21st century, Spanish has seen a new beginning in the Philippines. There's been an interest to rekindle the language. Many scholars have realized that Spanish is part of the Filipino history, part of the identity of the Filipinos. Many people have realized that Spanish has left a profound mark in the Philippines. Its traditions, cuisine, language, the own identity of the Filipino people, the culture, has a close relation to the Hispanic world. Most Filipinos, many groups want Spanish back. Many groups are even rallying to make it a compulsory subject in school once again. Many people want Spanish to return to the Philippines. There has been a resurgence of learning Spanish among Filipinos. Especially, well-educated Filipinos fully realize the potential and what this would mean for the Philippines in economical terms. The numbers of those studying formally at college or taking private courses has raised markedly in recent years. More people want to make a connection once again with their Hispanic roots, with their Hispanic ancestry. Did you know that there are currently 6 visa-free countries for Philippine passport holders where Spanish is the official language? Yes, Filipinos can still travel without a visa to some Spanish countries. For example, if you are Filipino, you can enter Bolivia without a visa. You can also enter Colombia and Costa Rica without a visa, Ecuador, Peru, and even Nicaragua. There is clearly an acknowledgement to the deep connections between the Spanish-speaking countries and the Philippines. And in spite of time, there is still a profound connection between all these countries. In 2006, something very interesting took place. Do you know what happened in 2006? In 2006, specifically on July the 3rd, the Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines created a resolution, Resolution 2006-028, urging the national government to support and promote the teaching of Spanish in schools and private universities in the Philippines. It was clearly a new beginning. Then, The next year, 2007, something remarkable happened. On December 17, 2007, the Department of Education of the Philippines issued Memorandum Number 490S 2007 encouraging secondary schools to offer basic and advanced Spanish in the 3rd and 4th year levels respectively. It seemed that Spanish was on its way back to the Philippines. But that was not all. Further developments took place the next following years, which encouraged the teaching and learning of the Spanish language among young Filipinos. As we can see in the year 2008, on December 11, 2008, the Department of Education of the Philippines issued a new Memorandum Number 560S 2008 that instructed the implementation of special programs in foreign language on a pilot basis starting in schools year 2009 and 2010. The program initially offered Spanish as a foreign language in one school per region at 2 classes of 35 students each per school. This was an excellent initiative to reintroduce the second most widely spoken language on earth to the Filipino people once again. In 2009, further developments took place. As of 2009, the Spanish government has offered to fund a project offering scholarships, grants to Spain for public school teachers and students who would like to study Spanish or take up a master's degree in 4 top universities in Spain. The Spanish government has been funding the ongoing pilot teacher training program about the Spanish language, involving 2 months of face-to-face classes and a 10-month online component. In 2012, let's continue learning a bit of history in relation to the reintroduction of Spanish in the Philippines. In September 11, 2012, it was said that there was 318 Spanish-trained basic education teachers in the Philippines. The Philippine Secretary of Department of Education, Armin Luistro, announced an agreement with the Chilean government to train Filipino school teachers in Spanish. In exchange, the Philippines would train Chilean teachers in English. What an excellent initiative! Let's imagine the impact this could have in the Philippines. The Philippines already has access to one of the most spoken languages on earth, namely English. Imagine adding once again Spanish to it. The potential for business and progress are amazing. There is an incredible potential for advancement and opportunities for the Filipino people. Spanish can be a fundamental tool for many young Filipinos seeking employment, for example in call centers or BPO businesses in this country, or to get a better employment abroad as seafarers, nurses, and social workers. Career prospects would also improve dramatically. The United States is one of the main lands of promises for the citizens of the Philippines, and there are nearly 50 million Americans who speak Spanish as their mother tongue. It's a little bit ironic that Spanish was banned in order to introduce English, while in the United States Spanish is being taught in every primary school and secondary school. Why should the Philippines stay behind if even America is doing it? There is plenty of opportunities and potential for young people who don't only speak English or Tagalog, but also speak Spanish. Imagine the opportunities that would be presented. Many Latin American countries, for example, are increasing their trade and investment relation with Southeast Asian countries, gradually shifting their economics focus toward the Pacific region. If only Spanish were commonly spoken in the Philippines along with English, the Philippines would become the next unbeatable business hub in Asia. In view of this is an excellent time for the Philippines to reintroduce Spanish as a compulsory language in a school in the Philippines. Thousands of new jobs would be created, tourism would explode and increase, and connections with the Spanish-speaking countries would flourish. Many Filipino people want the government to make Spanish an official language of the Philippines again. Others want the Department of Education to include the Spanish language as a required subject from prep to high school. The Philippines would be open to other countries and better foreign relations would follow, for example with Spain and many other Latino countries. The Filipino national identity will not only improve in Asia, but it would also improve before a worldwide community. This in turn would open further opportunities for economic and social growth in the international markets. Besides, the Filipinos have a strong connection with the Hispanic world. Even Tagalog has many loan words from Spanish. It would be an easy language for most people to learn. Muy bien, my dear amigos. As I said, my name is Mr. Briggs. I'm a Spanish teacher. I invite you to subscribe and click the like button if you enjoy this video. Now, this is particularly for our friends from the Philippines. I will be producing a video very soon about Chavacano, which is a Spanish Creole language spoken in some parts in the southern parts of the Philippines. So it's coming up very soon. I invite you to subscribe and share this video with other Filipino people that would like to learn and re-encounter their Hispanic language once again. My dear friends, it's been a real pleasure. Take good care, have a beautiful weekend, and I see you soon. Adiós amigos, hasta la vista. Cuídense. Chao.